Hey, welcome to the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. I'm Todd Rhodes, your host and one of the co-founders over at chemistrystaffing.com. You have caught us right in the middle of a 2-week series. We started last week. We're continuing on this week. It's a series on the Apostle Paul and what we can learn from Scripture about how we can lead better in our own ministry context today. The Apostle Paul lived a couple thousand years ago, but a lot of what he did and a lot of how he ministered has some direct relevance as to how we can lead and minister better today. So I'm really glad that you're here. Today, we are going to talk about Paul's passion for the gospel. And Paul's passion for the gospel is evident throughout his letters and his ministry. He considered it his life's mission to share the good news of salvation with everybody that he encountered, regardless of their background, regardless of their social status. He preached in synagogues and in marketplaces. He preached in prisons, boldly, wherever he was, declaring the message of Christ, risen, crucified, and risen. And one of those examples is in Romans chapter 1, verse 16. Paul, is one of the more famous verses, right? Paul says, For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew, and then to the Gentile. And this verse, Romans 1:16, really encapsulates Paul's unwavering commitment to the gospel. He understood the transformative power of the gospel, and he was not afraid to share it. Matter of fact, that was his why. We talked about that on an episode a couple weeks ago. What is your why? Sharing the gospel was Paul's why, even when it meant facing ridicule or rejection or even persecution, like as we talked about last week, being shipwrecked 3 different times. Paul's boldness stemmed really from his deep conviction that the gospel was really the only message that could really change lives and bring hope to a lost world. He was willing to risk everything, his reputation, his freedom, his life even, to share that message with others. How do we take what Paul did and apply this to what we're doing? Well, I think Paul's example kind of challenges us to be really unashamed of the gospel and to proclaim it with passion and conviction. And here's some ways I think that we can do it. Part of it is just integrating gospel-centered language. Incorporate the language of grace and redemption and forgiveness, not only into your sermons that you share with the big group on Sunday morning, but in your one-on-one conversations, even in your social media posts, for crying out loud. Don't be afraid to explicitly use Christian terminology in your everyday language to communicate the gospel. And secondly, as leaders, it's important to equip our congregation for everyday evangelism as well, providing training and resources to help church members share their faith. And again, as you integrate this into your own life and to your own daily language, you're going to be able to model this as well. Be intentional with your personal interactions. Look for opportunities to weave the gospel into your everyday conversations. And in your church, cultivate a culture of evangelism. Foster a church culture where sharing the gospel is not just an activity for pastors or evangelists, but really a natural expression of every believer's faith. Celebrate stories of people sharing their faith, stories of evangelism, and provide encouragement and support, and create a safe place for people to ask questions and share their experiences. Can you imagine Paul standing in the marketplace, passionately proclaiming the gospel while people are just rolling their eyes, and they might be scoffing him? They might even, throw tomatoes at him. Who knows? But Paul wouldn't be deterred. Matter of fact, he knew the importance of his message and was willing to endure any ridicule or any rejection that came to him because he was sharing it. So here's the bottom line for today. If we could take just a little bit of Paul's unashamed commitment to the gospel and just even capture a little bit of his boldness and his passion in sharing the good news, what difference would that make in our lives and in our ministry and in the lives of our community? So this week, let's work together. Let's step towards being more intentional, being very intentional about sharing our faith. Practice your personal testimony. Have a conversation with a church member about evangelism. Explore maybe a new outreach strategy for your church. Move the ball forward. Don't leave it on the same yard line you're on right now. Let's move this ball forward and really get to work here. All right. I hope that's encouraging for you today here on the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. If you've missed any of these on Paul, I think the content's been really good. I've really enjoyed sharing it with you. You can go back and listen anytime. Just subscribe, and on wherever you're listening to this now, hit subscribe, and then you can go back and get all of our archives. I believe today is episode 222. Hard to believe. And some of you, I know because you tell me you've listened to every one of them. I'm so sorry for that. But I appreciate everyone that listens, and you can reach out to me anytime. And it's really simple to do. Just hop on your Gmail or whatever email program you use and type out podcast at chemistrystaffing.com, and I will get your email and respond right back to you. So thanks so much for listening, and we will join you. Hope you'll join me again tomorrow as we continue on our series about the Apostle Paul.